Without further ado, let's get started. Today, we're going to talk about mastering your calendar and maximizing bookings and minimizing those vacancies on Furnished Finder. So, my name is Katie Lyon. I am the marketing director at Furnished Finder, and I'm also a midterm rental landlord myself. So, I get the privilege of living landlord life just like you all do. I absolutely love midterm rentals. I had one long-term rental before I started working at Furnished Finder on the marketing team. And then when I quickly realized the potential of these midterm rentals and I went all in. So now my family and I have 13 midterm rentals that we operate, and it's fantastic. So everything that you guys walk through every day as a midterm rental landlord, I myself am also doing. You can know that I'm experiencing it right there along with you. So I would love to get to know, oh, the audio is fading. Can you guys hear me okay still? Give me a yes if you can hear me okay. Yes. Okay, good. Okay. I know AirPods can sometimes be a little bit tricky. If you guys click on the polls, I have two questions in there. I see some of you have already answered, but this would be really insightful for me if you could click how long have you been a furnished finder landlord and how long have you been renting in total. That will help me to tailor the information that we use that I present to you today and make it even more meaningful. So hop in there, give that, takes 2 seconds, answer those for me. That will be really helpful. But today, what we want to do, I want to introduce our brand new calendar tool to you. We have completely overhauled the calendar tool. It's fantastic. I want to walk you through it. Then I want to help you understand the benefits of the new calendar, how to use it best, walk you through it. And then we're going to go through some strategies for maximizing your occupancy. So, really, today is tactics and strategies. First, we're going to do the tactics of how do you manage this new calendar? What is the new calendar tool? Then we're going to go into what are some strategies that you can use to just maximize your occupancy overall. Because as landlords, we want our properties occupied, right? Okay, let's keep going. Okay, first things first is the why. I always like starting anything that I'm working on at the why. Why is your calendar so important? Tenants are going to use your availability as a primary search method. Many of the searches that we see on Furnish Finder, people are including a date entry, right? They are looking for specific dates or date ranges, right? They are using the calendar as a search driver. So if your calendar is not up to date, tenants can't find you, even if your place is absolutely perfect. And I want to let that sink in for a minute because it's like the first barrier that you might have with having a great rental experience with a tenant is if your property is not up to date and they can't find you for when they're looking, you missed, right? And I want to make sure that does not happen. Okay, the benefits of an accurate and available calendar management. When you have an accurate calendar and an up to date calendar, and your calendar management is on point, you're going to appear in more filtered searches. You're going to match with better needs of tenants, and you're going to save time reviewing those unmatched needs because it's going to call out exactly what does not, what's not lining up. So, in my eyes, when I think about it as a landlord, it's like me turning the porch light on to renters, showing that you're open for business, right? It's like Halloween night, right? Turn your porch light on and tell everybody you're ready for trick or treating. Turn your porch light on, let everybody know that you're ready for a renter. And that is by getting your calendar availability spot on. Okay, so how are you going to do that? How do you do that on Furnish Finder? How do you tell all these tenants when you're available and when you're not? The calendar request and a calendar upgrade was our number one request. I can't tell you how many events I've been to over the past 3 or 4 years where I hear landlords say, "I need a better calendar. When are you going to fix the calendar? When is a new calendar coming?" Thankfully, it is here. And I'm so excited that it is here. The calendar is brand new, improved, and I'm going to walk you all through it. Okay. The old calendar, all you did was pick an availability date. It was a date selector, really not a calendar in a calendar form. It was tell us when your property is available. We need a little bit more details on that. So the new calendar is going to track all your bookings and all your blocking events in one place. Okay. It's also going to make it so you don't have to constantly update your calendar's availability date manually. And I'll go into this more in a second. You're going to have more detailed availability management. You're going to be able to manage your availability state or your minimum stay settings. So if you have a 90-day minimum stay, a 30-day minimum stay, and then you're going to be able to link your calendar to Airbnb and VRBO. Why is this important? Because again, you're not going to update these manual dates. So I see that some of you have been with Furnished Finder for more than 2 years, even a year or two. You've heard us say, update your availability regularly, right? You don't need to do that anymore. You don't need to do that. All you need to do is tell us when you are not available, when someone is in your property, when your property is spoken for. Okay. You're going to eliminate manual entries from Airbnb and VRBO bookings. You're going to be able to enter these bookings and block dates right into your calendar, and you're going to be able to mark dates unavailable for any reason. Maybe I want to go stay at my property for a week in June. I can mark those dates as available, as unavailable. I'm sorry. Okay, so let's look at it. What does this look like? This is your glimpse at the calendar. You're going to get this by going into your edit listing in your landlord dashboard and clicking edit listing and then calendar. First thing first, right up top, this top arrow, you're going to see minimum stay. You're going to select what is your minimum stay. Typically, we recommend 1 month or 30 days. Sometimes people are in an HOA or with their managements, they just want to have a longer minimum stay, and that's fine. We just ask that you put it in there. Then we're going to have you put in your bookings, okay? What dates are already spoken for? What bookings do you already have? What is already reserved on your calendar? Then you're going to enter those things, and we're going to be able to put together when your availability really is. So what does this look like? Okay, I'm going to say that I have David Smith, who is here from April 1st to April 30th, and I have some scheduled maintenance I need to do on May 1st through May 3rd. That would make it really hard for a tenant to be in the property during that. Maybe I'm having a wall torn down or something. I don't know. That's going to automatically mean that my property is going to be available on the evening of May 3rd. Okay. So truly what's happening is you're taking the blocked dates or your bookings plus your minimum stay, and we will take those two things. We will calculate your availability date and make sure that you have an accurate and automatically updated calendar. Okay. So here's this explanation really sorted out. Okay. Let's say David Smith, again, we have him there for 30 days. We have maintenance. I can actually see the numbers a little bit better now. And that we will automatically show it as available later that night. Okay. Sample scenario two, you have a minimum stay for 60 days. You have David Smith, who is still there. Then you have maintenance, and then you have family using the property, but not until July. Well, since there is 60 days within here, we're going to show your property is available as of May 9th. Okay. So, truly, what we need to do here is we just need you to put in your minimum stay and everything on your calendar for your property that makes it not available for a tenant to move in or be in the property at that time. Okay. Also, we can now link with Airbnb and VRBO. This is really exciting because we don't want you to have to do duplicate work. We want you to be able to be streamlined, and we don't want you to have any double bookings that become an issue. So if you link your calendars, Furnished Finder and Airbnb or Furnished Finder and VRBO, what you're going to be able to do is have it so that if you have a short-term rental or a longer rental or whatever it is, a reservation on Airbnb or about that populates, Furnished Finder will automatically recognize that booking and block off your dates. Now, what's important here is to remember that what does not happen is your Furnished Finder bookings are not going to get pushed to Airbnb or VRBO. I'm going to say that again. We're going to pull in your dates reserved on these other platforms. We are not going to take your Furnished Finder booking that you enter on your calendar, or let's say you put in a 4-day maintenance stay, and push that to Airbnb and VRBO and block it on those calendars. Okay. This is a pull system. So just remember that when you go to link these and how you want to use that tool. Okay. So we've got this brand new calendar. What do you need to do to utilize the new calendar best? First thing you need to do is you need to add any bookings or blocked dates that you have, whether they're from a tenant on Furnished Finder, whether they're scheduled maintenance, whether it's time that you are planning to use your property yourself, whatever it is, whatever dates your property is not available, go in and add them to your calendar. You will notice right now that the calendar is not clickable. It will be clickable very shortly. If you're watching this on recording, it might already be available. So you're going to go down below and just hit add blocking event, and you're going to add in the details there. If you have a tenant who is currently in your property enter their stay as of today. Just think about it like we're adapting to this new tool. We want to get it all the bookings in moving forward. Assess your minimum stays and make sure that you are as flexible as possible. So like I said, we always encourage that 30-day minimum stay. If you have other reasons to have a longer one, that's perfectly fine, but make sure you maintain that flexibility. And then link your calendar with Airbnb and VRBO if you would like to. And then for those of you who have been with us for a while and you've heard us say, update your availability, push it to today, push it to today. You don't have to do that. As long as your calendar is accurate and it's up to date, meaning that you have all of your blocked dates in there, you're good. Okay, so now we're going to go to the strategy part. Okay, part of this presentation is that tactical, how do I manage this new tool? What's changing with the tool? What do I need to do on that front with the platform? The next part really is just going to focus on midterm rentals in general. And how do you keep your property as full as you can? How do I maximize that occupancy and keep tenants in my property? So we're going to go over 6 strategies. We're going to go everything from smart availability to communication and pricing. We'll go through these one by one and feel free to ask any questions that you would like. Okay, so number 1, smart availability. This is really important. I want you to be as open as you can, particularly in high demand times of years. Maintain that 1 month minimum stay if you can, and think carefully before accepting future reservations that restrict longer stays. An example of this, right? Let's say it's May 1st and I get an inquiry for August 1st. Super exciting. I'm like, great. I'm filling up my calendar. I'm already getting into Q3. This is fantastic. August might go through October. Awesome. However, now I've created this window from May until August that any tenant who is looking for a longer stay than that, I they can no longer consider my property. So I created a little bit of a bind for myself, and I want you to be careful about that. Okay. You just want to keep very open communication. You might have a tenant that's extending and it works out great. Or you might put yourself in a place where you end up with 4 weeks or 6 weeks empty because the people in your area are looking for 3 month stays, right? Versus a month, something like that. So just really be thoughtful about that. Flexibility. Many tenants extend, particularly medical professionals. I know personally, I is very common for me to have my tenants extend. In fact, it's just my best practice at 30 days from their lease expiring. I ask them, okay, I see real quick my volume has gone bad. Can you guys hear me okay? We'll try to double this up here. Let me know if that's okay. Okay, I got a thumbs up. Okay, good. Um, a lot of tenants extend. And I want you to think about our tenant types here. Yeah, about a quarter of our travelers are traveling medical professionals. Their contracts, if that hospital or facility is still in need, will get extended quite often. We also have displaced families. I don't know the last time any house repair or construction project was done on time, right? It happens all of the time. Displaced families, right? Relocating families, maybe they're looking for a new home. In this market, you might not find it in 60 days like you originally thought. It might take you longer. A corporate project, a corporate traveler might be going further than they thought, right? So just remember that a lot of times these plans change, and to maintain room for flexibility with that, keep a close line of communication. The other way I want you to think about flexibility is what tenants that you're accepting into your property. What tenants are you potentially turning away? Maybe before you even have the chance to turn them away, that you could be open to accepting. What about someone with pets? Are you not open to pets, but maybe you would be if you had a pet deposit? Maybe you typically have a 3 month minimum, but you could accept a 1 month minimum. Who are you not accepting that you might be able to add in some flexibility while preserving your security, right? And your comfort level. But pets is my favorite example here, right? I think a lot of landlords are very nervous about accepting tenants with pets, but I'm always like, you can charge an extra cleaning fee, right? You can get a damage protection plan. You can get an extra security deposit. You can do a lot of these things to make it so that you feel reassured and you can still have the flexibility to accept that tenant and keep your space full. Okay, next is smart pricing. Seasonal pricing is not as much of a thing in midterm rentals, monthly rentals, as it is in short-term rentals. If anybody has experience or comes from the short-term rental world, let me know in the chat. Just say STR or something that you come from the short-term rental world. 'Cause I know the short-term rental world is all about different daily rates, right? And seasonal rates and weekly rates and weekend rates. Okay, seeing it all come in. This is not as much of a thing in the midterm rental world. You might have seasonal fluctuations. However, since a lot of these are needs-based stays, it doesn't fluctuate nearly as much. A vast majority of my properties are located in the Midwest, where I would anticipate demand to really tank in the winter. However, a lot of times the travelers or the corporate travelers get an increased housing stipend during the winter months because they know nobody wants to travel to the cold in those months. So sometimes it regulates itself depending on the demand and your market, things like that. So take that and just realize that that day-to-day fluctuation is not as much of a thing. You might have some seasonal adjustments. What I really want you to think about here is your fees. What you see here is the average fees that we see across our 300,000 listings on Furnished Finder. Okay. Application fee is most likely used as like a tenant screening, $50 feels reasonable. Cleaning fee, 175. Again, feels pretty reasonable. Refundable deposit of $1,000. That's going to feel like a lot for a lot of our travelers. And granted, this is very property specific. If you have a large single family home and the rent is three, four, $5,000 a month, that feels reasonable. If you have a studio apartment or a room rental, your deposit probably shouldn't be that high. You're probably scaring off some tenants before you even get the chance to talk to them. One second, I'm just going to check something with my audio. Okay, I think it's good from my end. So hopefully, if you're having issues with the audio, hopefully you can maybe reload. It should let you right back in, and hopefully the connection would get better. Okay. Non-refundable deposit of $500. Also realize that if you have a non-refundable deposit of $500, you might be scaring away some tenants, like a lot of them. That's steep, right? Refundable pet deposit of 300, non-refundable of 200. Just to remember to put yourself in your shoes, and you want to make these fees and your deposits something that protects your investment and makes you feel comfortable as a landlord, but you also are not eliminating potential tenants or travelers. Okay, amenities and listing quality. Amenities and listing quality are huge, and they are a great way to increase the occupancy of your property. Now, I don't want you to think about amenities as pickleball courts or surfboards or bikes. I don't like that is not what I mean. What I mean is professional photos, fresh furnishings, a really detailed listing, right? Talking in detail about what do you have to offer and why it's great, reviews, completing your landlord profile, making your headline of your listing very enticing. Don't tell me that the property is quaint and cute. Tell me that it's safe and conveniently located. Okay. Including utilities and Wi Fi. And then what amenities can you add that a monthly furnished rental tenant will value? Can you add parking? Blackout curtains, kitchen appliances, washer and dryer. Can you add those? And if you don't have them, it's completely okay. Just be transparent and make sure that your pricing and your listing match this. I know a lot of people have properties that don't have a washer and dryer, but they can say that and they can say, hey, here's a convenient laundromat that's a 5-minute drive, a 10-minute drive. And you're almost solving these problems proactively for them. And the last thing I want you to think about here is to keep an eye on your listing performance panel. This is brand new. We just rolled this out within the past few months. I am a little bit of like an analytics nerd, so I love keeping an eye on this. What you can do is you can look at your property and you can see all of these numbers, all these data for your listing in specific. Okay. So you can see how many housing requests have you got? How many phone number reveals have you gotten? How many messages have you gotten? How many days have you been live? And this is going to really help you to make informed decisions. And this is going to refresh daily. So check it once a day. Again, it's not as fast paced as the short term rental world because your average tenant is going to stay for about 3 months. Okay, this is another one of my favorite tips. I am always so shocked when I'm talking to a landlord at a conference or a meetup and they're like, "Hey, can you help me with my listing?" And I'm like, "Yeah, absolutely. It's one of my favorite things to do." Right. And then I'm like, "Pull it up." And they pull up their listing and they're like, "Oh, I didn't know I had that photo on there. Or I didn't know that was my featured photo." Or, "Oh, I still have that as my headline." Or, "Oh, wait, I've changed my deposit. It's not that high anymore." So take a minute and look at your listing through the eyes of a traveler, and don't do this haphazardly. Do it when you have time to really sit down. It's not going to take you long, but do it with your full focus and go through and make sure everything is accurate and make sure that you are putting your very best foot forward. Okay. This is the cover to your book. And people do judge books by their cover. So you just want to make sure that you're really putting everything, your best foot forward. This is like your property website, right? This is your marketing page where you're using to attract tenants. So just take a second and really think about, how does this look and what kind of details can I add to make it look even better? Okay, our next strategy is communication habits. This is also, I feel like, something that newer landlords might struggle to adapt to is communication habits within Furnished Finder. If you are new to Furnished Finder and you're maybe confused with the tenant lead types or knowing who is who, we can drop in the chat a link to a previous webinar that we have that is for onboarding, and it actually walks you through each of the tenant types and what the differences in all of them are. But responding quickly and thoroughly to leads, right? We are a lead generation site, and our goal is to help you find an amazing tenant. Then the booking is up to you. And that's intentional because we want you to have control over your lease and over your security deposit and over your doing a background check, all of these things, and over your calendar, right? And we don't take those booking fees. And that is huge, okay? And the travelers know that about us. They love that about us. We'll get you guys that link, don't worry. So we want you to know that, but this takes the communication is between you and a potential tenant, right? So when you get those leads, it's really important that you respond quickly and thoroughly, right? Let them know in that message, "Hey, I'd love to host you. Here's a link to my property. I love that it's right downtown. We actually have free parking, or we're pet friendly," or just ask, "Do you have any pets you're coming with? How long are you looking to stay?" Ask questions, show some interest, and start that relationship off on the right foot. You can even call them, right? I have had tenants who reach out to me and they say, "Hey, could I just do a quick FaceTime call with you?" And I'm like, "Sure, great, no problem. Like, I would love to." So if you're going to hear from our tenants in all different types of way, but just stay active and engaged and really think about the messages that you're sending back to these travelers. And then this last strategy is a short-term rental, midterm rental hybrid. I would be interested to know if anybody here does this method. I know we have quite a few people who have either come from the short-term rental world or do short-term rentals currently. And this is a really interesting and smart approach to renting and maximizing your occupancy. Okay, great. There's a few people here that do. It's fantastic, especially if you are in a seasonal market or market that maybe summers are really hot in your market and you're okay, great. There's a lot of people. There's a lot of markets that you might kill it with short-term rentals in the summer and you want to keep doing that. Or maybe you have a property in Breckenridge and ski season is your jam and you want to do Airbnbs there. You can absolutely do that, right? And you can merge it with midterm rentals. What I have found by talking to so many landlords who do this, I call it the midterm rental, short-term rental hybrid method, is that you do it intentionally. And I have found that there's two ways that seem to work for people. The first way is what I call flip the switch. Okay. And this is if you live in a really seasonal market, you're going to flip the switch. You're going to say, okay, ski season is here. I'm doing short-term rentals and short-term rentals only. Okay. And then ski season is over in April or May, and you're going to say, okay, I'm not taking any more short term rentals and I'm going to do only midterms. And you might be saying, what if I get a really good mid or short term rental over the 4th of July? The problem with that is now you can't have any midterm rental stays that overlap that short-term stay. So you just made it very hard for a midterm rental to work out, but you might create a lot of vacancy on the short-term rental side if you can't fill those other times. So, with that, the other strategy that I have seen to work really well is the fill the gaps strategy, where you're primarily doing midterm rentals, but then you're filling the gaps. Maybe you have a week gap here, a 2 week gap here. You're using short term rentals to fill in your calendar there. That also sounds very, or that also works very well. So, I would encourage you, if you're going to do this method, look into one of those two approaches. We also have a podcast at Furnished Finder. It's called the Landlord Diaries. It's on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, all those things. And we've talked to a fair number of landlords who have successfully implemented short-term rental, midterm rental, hybrid, if it's allowed and if it works for your property. So if you're looking to learn more, I would really encourage you to search the podcast for that. There's some great interviews. So I would definitely look into that because it's a strategy that's a little bit more sophisticated and takes a little bit more time and effort, but there's a lot of potential there. Okay, so now it's your turn, right? What are you going to do next? My favorite thing is a webinar with a lot of information and a lot of actions for you to take. My least favorite thing is when you're left hanging and you don't really know what to do from here, right? You're like, okay, great, I got all this information. What do I do? So my recommendations for you are keep an up to date and accurate calendar, right? This is such a huge thing. You have to have an accurate calendar or you're just taking yourself out of the ballgame before it's even started. Explore options for more flexibility in booking. Would you be up for taking a tenant with a pet? Would you be up for taking a pet or a tenant with maybe a lower credit score if they give an extra deposit? Just how can you open your world a little bit more to even more opportunities? Demand at Furnished Finder, we are seeing year to year, our booking requests are up over 100%. The demand is there. So you might not even need to expand your flexibility in bookings. But if you do, really consider it because the demand is there and they are looking for places just like yours. Then I want you to go in and I want you to assess your listings and your fees. I want you to think about how much of a deposit are you requiring? How much is your cleaning fee? How much is your non-refundable pet fee? I want you to look at all of those. I want you to make sure you're not out feeing yourself because that again, that's like taking yourself out of the ball game in the first inning, right? Makes it really hard. And then I want you to get strategic with the midterm rental, short-term rental strategy if it is something that would apply for you. And my hope truly is that these small tweaks will have a big impact on your business because I know for me personally, they truly have. They're small things, right? They're small things, but these are things that have a really big impact on how tenants see you, how you get attention in the marketplace, and how you book your property. I always get a question about like, what do I do when I get the tenant and the traveler and they're ready to sign? What do I do? I want to remind everybody that we have tools for every step. Just like this webinar, like we really care about all of our landlords and making sure that you have all of the tools for success. So we have very intentionally partnered with different people in these industries from property insurance to tenant screening, all the way down to online payments to get the best of the best that we partner with. And we feel really great about recommending their tools through our platform to you. So if you're in your dashboard and you click on landlord tools, you will have everything you really need to be successful. Of course, you can use any tools that you want. You're not bound to use these ones. These are just ones that we recommend and pass on from our partners. So I just want everybody to realize that we have these steps in place for you because sometimes it can feel like, okay, I have this person, they're ready to move in, they want to sign a lease, but where do I get a lease? Do I need to do a tenant screening? Like you can feel a little bit left out to sea. So we have your back there. We've got all these tools for you and some resources. Okay. We send out weekly emails. Obviously, you all got the email about this webinar, which is fantastic. I'm so glad you've taken the time to be here. Hopefully, it's going to be really valuable. Like I mentioned, our podcast, we release about 2 episodes a month, and we have about 130 episodes in the bank also. So if you're like, oh, I'm really interested in room rentals, but I don't know where to start, our podcast called The Landlord Diaries is a great place to search because we interview these landlords where we ask them all the questions you want to know. We're going to ask them, what do you do with house rules? How do you manage this? How do you do that? So it's a really great resource. I've even gone back and listened to some episodes where me and my co-host are interviewing other folks because I'm like, oh, they had such good stuff that I want to hear it again. And then we have a Facebook group, and the Facebook group it's over 170,000 people, I think now, and it's a mix of tenants and landlords. So it's not only a great place to ask landlords questions, but it's a great place to also pick the brain of tenants if you'd like. Let's say you're furnishing and you're like, do I need a blender? Do I not need a blender? Ask it, right? You'd be surprised how much feedback you can get. And that is a fantastic community that you can get there. Okay, we are going to go through some questions. This is fantastic. We've got lots of time. So please, if you have questions, put them in, and my moderator is going to help me tag them as questions that I will go through and answer live. But this is like the best part about you guys taking the time on a Friday to get to a live presentation is that we're going to go through these questions live. Feel free to take a snapshot of this or screenshot of this as well. This QR code at the top is going to take you right to a 5-minute calendar walkthrough video that we have on YouTube where it's going to take you screen by screen. That's really helpful. Okay, let's go through these. Okay. I have not rented to anyone yet in almost a year. I would love to talk to someone about whatever flaws are stopping me in the process. I love it, Mike. I would recommend reaching out to our customer service team. I would also recommend using that Facebook group, and you could say, hey, I would love a peer review of my listing. Would anybody here be willing to take a look at it? We have some incredible landlords, incredible, and I'm sure they would love to do that for you. I would also recommend that you go on our YouTube page and look for it's called from listing to leasing, and that's an onboarding webinar, and that has more or less a punch list of things to do to make sure that you have a fantastic leasing or a listing process. How do you quickly find the calendar? I always have to search for it. Leslie, we are working on creating a shortcut because you're not the first person to say that. It's always been in the same place. You're going to go to your dashboard, then you're going to go to edit property, and then it'll be under there. I actually have just bookmarked it on my phone and on my laptop as well. So that's another solution if you want to do that. Okay, hang on. Okay, I can answer these live. Okay, I'm new to Furnished Finder. Does it serve as a referral service only or also vet the tenants and provide the contract? So it is a tenant matching platform. So we don't vet the tenants, we leave that to you. And the reason for that is because you might have a different standard than I have or anybody else has. So we want to make sure that it is up to how you want to do it. So we do have our tenant screening that's backed by TransUnion that you can use. It's very standard for the tenant to pay for that. It's $44.99. But yeah, we do. I highly recommend that as a part of the process. Okay, let's see. Okay, some of these are repeating. Hang on just a second. All right, guys, hang with me. I'm having trouble marking availability on the calendar. Am I looking in the wrong place or editing incorrectly? So Diana, I don't want you to think about marking availability. I want you to think about marking only what is unavailable. So add in the dates that your calendar is not available. And what's coming is being able to click the calendar and select those dates. If somebody's watching the replay of this, that might actually already be available. But for now, you're going to go down and click add booking event or add blocked event. I don't remember the exact verbiage, but something like that. Yeah. How far in advance do renters typically book their lease? I'd like to have a new renter in by June 1st, but I haven't seen a lot of requests. That's a great question, Claire. So the book to stay window that we see most average is about 30 days. So tenants are looking for about 30 days for now. Now, some tenants are looking closer, some tenants are looking further out. I would say you're looking for June 1st. I wouldn't have an ounce of worry yet at all. I have had tenants move in as soon as the next day personally. So I would not worry at all yet. I want to add a second property. Is there a charge for that? Says Anne Marie. Yeah. So the listings on Furnished Finder are per listing. And the reason for that is because all of your listings are going to be different and they all deserve their own thorough, independent listing. I've spoken to some landlords who say, I have a room rental and I just want to list the whole house and then I'll just tell people it's different. And what I tell them is you want to have a listing for every different rentable area you have or every different property you have because you're speaking to a different tenant. And again, you wanna be seen to be able to be rented. If you don't have those porch lights on, nobody can come find you and rent your property. So that for me is like you really want to have that. Remember, there's no booking fees, right? So you make your investment back really quickly, unlike other sites that like Airbnb, it might be free to list your property, but then there's booking fees that you pay with every booking, right? So we just flipped that on its head and we don't have those booking fees. So yeah, definitely get a second listing. How do I do a 2-month stay option? So you can Jane, I'm gonna answer your question in 2 ways because 'cause I'm not sure how you meant it. If you're talking about how do you enter a 2-month booking, you're just gonna add in those dates. If you have a 2-month minimum stay, I think we're actually working on adding that option. And this is a good note also because what you guys are hearing me say, I'm sure, is yes, like we're working on making the clickable dates and the 2-month minimum stay, things like that. We like to get these product improvements out to you guys as soon as we can because they're huge and we know how much of an impact it has on your business and we know how much easier it can make things and we know how long everybody's wanted a new calendar. We're going to keep improving it though. Like just because we've released it to you all doesn't mean it's done. So that's why it's important to keep tuned into those emails, keep exploring and look for those communications. We're going to keep making everything better and better. It's going to be awesome. Okay. I use the tenant screening and lease. Do I also need an application? My first tenant was a shocker. I now require a minimum credit score with tenant screening. Just wondering. Melissa, I think that's up to you. Personally, I don't require an application if I also have a tenant screening. But I think what's really great about renting on Furnished Finder is you can run your business how you want to run your business, right? As long as you're within fair housing law and, terms and conditions, obviously you're within the legalities. If it makes you feel better to require an application, like by all means, require an application. That is totally fine. I think the more we all go through this, the more we learn things that we want to have for tenants or don't need to have or things like that. And you just keep adapting as you go forward. And that's how we all end up with the businesses that we want to have. When would you need to do a tenant screening if the tenant reserves from 1 year in advance? This is from Myrna. Myrna, I would ask for the tenant screening and right before you sign the lease because I want to feel really good about that tenant. Okay, what are you ooh, this is a good question. Michelle, what are your recommended consolidator apps, IGMS, etc., used to sync calendars from other apps? Michelle, you're not gonna like my answer. Fair warning, don't hate me. I wouldn't recommend one, and here's the reason. I think a lot of those softwares are made for short-term rentals where you might have 50, 100, 150 bookings a year, right? With midterm rentals, on average, you're gonna have 4. So a lot of times that makes it more complicated than it truly needs to be. That's what I would say. Is I would really rely on the Furnished Finder calendar itself and or just really simplify the process because what you're going to find is you might have a tenant that stays at your property for 9 months and then you didn't need all those integrations and everything because it's not changing day to day. How do you come up with a monthly cost for your rental? This is from Benita. This is a great question, Benita. I like to say that pricing for a midterm rental is a little bit art and it's a little bit science. I always start as a base of 1.5 to 2 times long-term rent. So I'll go on Zillow, I'll find a comparable long-term rent for my property, and I'll say, okay, let's just say it's $1,000. Maybe I'll say, okay, I'm going to aim for 1,500 to 2,000 ballpark. Then I'm going to go on Furnished Finder and I'm going to find some comparables on there. And I'm going to say, ooh, actually, looks like properties like mine in this area are booking for a little bit higher. Oh, and I have a washer and dryer. So I feel like I can add for that. And I'm pet friendly and I have free parking. So that's where a little bit of the art comes in. And you can adjust your pricing at any point and you can just observe and see what feels right to you. Can I have an example of a key check lease to be prepared with your language used now as a new landlord? So, Nancy, the way we work with with Rocket Lawyer through KeyCheck, and you can also get there just straight through Furnished Finder under your landlord tools, is a credit-based system. So you could get one, but it would use your credit. What I would do is not worry as much about seeing an example as much as just making the lease when you're ready to make the lease, because what Rocket Lawyer does automatically is if anything changes, any regulations, any state specific clauses, anything like that, they're going to update it, right? So you'll know when you go to make the lease that you have the most up to date and accurate one. This is a great question from Kimberly. Does the public see the names of the booked on the booked calendar? No. They just see that it's unavailable then. So you still have privacy for that matter. Do we need a lease agreement? Yes. Naomi, yes. For your own protection, for the protection of your tenant, but we make it really easy through Furnished Finder. You just click on the landlord tools and you can get that taken care of there. Can I edit my description? Absolutely. Ampero, I hope I'm saying your name right. Absolutely. You can go into edit listing at any time. At any time. And I would encourage people to do right. I would say if you're looking to find the right tenant for your property, tweak it. Play with it as much as you want to. Do you still offer the rental analysis component of your website? If you go to furnishedfinder.com/stats, and I will drop that in the chat here. See if my keyboard will connect. This is going to let you get some statistics about any market that you want, which is super insightful and helpful. Okay, my tenant moved out early and now I want to delete the block on my calendar. How do I do that? I'm having trouble. You sure should be able to do that, Anne Marie. If you click into the blocking event, you should be able to delete it. If you're having issues, I would say reach out to our customer service on this bottom link here. What's really great about our customer service is they don't just help you, but they also communicate any issues or bugs that people are having back to our engineering team. So when you're going through things like that, like we really are putting the wheels in action to say, okay, let's get Anne Marie taken care of, and then let's also make sure that everybody else gets taken care of. And this is how we discover a lot of the product improvements as well, is through you guys' feedback. So we really appreciate it and keep that feedback coming. I have two properties. It's hard to see both. Is there a way to bounce between the two? Yeah, the best way is just on the home of your landlord dashboard to go through selecting the two of them. That's how I find it's easiest. The name of the podcast is The Landlord Diaries. Can I email a potential tenant through Furnished Finder instead of separate email? Yes, Lynette, we have a messaging system that works really well. And I find that tenants like working on it just because it keeps them on the platform and they keep all their stuff in one place. So I use it as a landlord pretty exclusively. Okay. What about renters who want to do month to month? This is a great question, Ida. It stresses me out because I don't know if I should find another tenant or not. Fantastic question. Communication. Communication. Let them know your policy. Okay. So if they want to do month to month, when do they need to let you know? Is it 30 days in advance that they're going to move out? And if so, 30 days before their lease is set to renew, I would be on them every time. Hey, what are you feeling? Do you think you'll extend? To try to get as much information as possible, not in a prying way, but just in a, hey, I need to know if I need to start marketing my property. Are you looking to extend again? Things like that. Just really keep that open line of communication. It's going to be key. Janice says, I thought you could list multiple units in the same building on the same listing. So Janice, what you're talking about is a unit listing, and you can, but they're still separate listings technically. And the reason we do that is because bedroom 1 that you rent out is probably going to look a little bit different than bedroom 2. Okay, I think some of these we've answered. The tenant leads I've started getting are people very low quality. Where are these people being sourced from? This is Libby. Libby, this is a great question. People come to Furnish Finder from all over. We have millions of travelers every month, so many. And I don't want to call them low quality. I want to say that you're trying to find who you're looking for. I will say you might be getting people that have a lower budget than you. And some people start with requesting a lower budget and then they end up increasing their budget. Or those people might end up doing a more budget friendly thing like a room rental or something like that. But we also have insurance placement agencies that use us, and corporate housing providers, placement agents that use us, housing specialists that use us. And remember that tenants can contact you in a lot of different ways on Furnished Finder, right? So you'll see them come through the leads, but you will also get direct booking inquiries. You'll get direct messages. You'll get text messages sometimes. I've gotten phone calls before. Don't feel discouraged by any of the tenant leads you get if they're not right for you or your property. I always tell myself, I'm like, remember, like, there's so many tenants. There's so many tenants and travelers, and the use cases for midterm rentals are just skyrocketing. So it's there's all types of people. Okay, let's see. I think we've gotten the majority of the question. Let's see. Would it be a good idea to have insurance? Yes. Of course. Yes, it would. And we actually work with Steadily because they are very familiar with midterm rentals and they will give you the landlord insurance that you need, which is specific for liability, things like that. So that you can get a quote on that with your landlord tools as well. And again, that's through Steadily, but we just have established that partnership because we really trust them taking really good care of our landlords. Okay, let's see if we can answer just a couple more. I'm totally new. Do we need to provide bedding, sheets, pillowcases, etc.? From Elsa. Yes, you definitely do. I'm going to put Elsa in the chat our YouTube page. And what I want you to do is I want you to go on there and I want you to look for a video called From Listing to Leasing. And that's going to have a really great process for getting you going. Okay, you guys, I think this was so fantastic. I hope that everybody has gotten so much value and that you have your what are you going to do next? Maybe everybody can tell me just in the chat, what are you going to take from today and what are you going to do with your calendar? What's one change that you can make? Can you accept tenants with pets? Can you be more flexible with your minimum stay? Can you create the habit of entering your bookings as soon as you get them? I really love to see when landlords take these things and make actions because that's really what's going to help us all meet our goals and hit that occupancy that you want to get. Oh no, Wilson. Wilson just said he's frustrated because I didn't answer his question about seasonal rent adjustment. I'm so sorry. Let me see. Wilson, can you type your question in again? I'm sorry. The chat is full. I haven't seen everybody, but right now I will say, Wilson, we don't have the option to change your pricing per season. We don't have seasonal pricing in there. However, I've seen a lot of people put it in their description, which is a fantastic way. Okay, great. Benita, I see you're going to make some edits to your profile. I love that. All right. Thank you guys so much. Please, I encourage you to take this. Go check out your new calendar. See how it looks. See how you're going to use it. And then have a beautiful weekend. And please, if you want extra help or anything, please feel free to reach out to our customer service team. Be on the lookout. We will continue to do webinars to help you all reach your goals and to meet all of the success that you are with your midterm rental. All right. Have a fantastic weekend, everybody.